The following is a paid program. The views expressed are not necessarily those of the management or ownership of Score North, KSTP AM 1500.
This is the place to talk about everything related to the home, buying or selling real estate, financing and improvements that can help increase your home's value. This is Minnesota Home Talk on Score North. Here's your host, Jason Walgrave.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Minnesota Home Talk. I'm your host this morning, Mike Overson with Luminate Home Loans. Jason apparently decided he could get another weekend off. That's 2 weekends in a row now.
That's how it works. You can just take all the weekends off, right?
I mean, I suppose.
Theoretically.
How many weekends does he get off before his name comes off the introduction?
Well, when does he stop paying? That's the real question.
That's the real question. That's
He's
when
paying
it is
for his name at the top of the show.
It's not when he shows up or not shows up. It's just when the check stops.
Yeah,
coming.
when the checks bounce.
That's when his name comes off.
That's
the
when
intro.
his name comes
and
off.
my name goes on there.
Yeah, sure.
Sweet.
I'm on board.
That's a good deal.
Collectively, the show got a lot better looking today, anyways. So
right. Thanks for tuning in. We're here every Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Answering your questions about mortgages, real estate, credit repair. We got a packed house this morning. Here we got we've had 5 people in before. I think 5 in the studio before, but not very often.
Yeah,
we are a full house this morning. With us this morning is Steve De La Roseby. He's an agent with the Wallace Grave Real Estate Group and the Minnesota Real Estate Team. And also in studio with us this morning, we have his son Kyle De La Roseby, who's with Colliers, and we also have John McCarthy with Colliers as well. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for getting up and coming in early.
Oh, great to be here. We're up this early every morning.
And you guys got your 10,000 steps in already by making your way to the studio.
Quite a building here. Quite a building to see.
Yep. It's quite the adventure making it all the way down here. It's like, how many more hallways do we go down before we actually get to where we need to go?
And that special bathroom that you showed us, that's worth the price of the tour, right?
It is. It is.
Every floor advances a decade too. You start in the 70s, and I mean, this is very modern right now. It looks like the space just got built out a year or two ago.
Right?
That's pretty accurate.
It's pretty accurate. Yeah, I think the studio's it's that new, isn't it?
It's pre-COVID, but only slightly, like very, very slightly. So.
Yep. And then you go about 20 feet to the bathroom and you're back in the 70s.
60s, I think, on that one.
60s?
Yeah.
Probably, huh?
That color of blue? Yeah.
I'm trying to talk my wife into letting me put one of those in there.
I mean, I'm on board.
Yep. The baby blue porcelain.
Yeah, blue is back. Blue's back.
See?
Yeah, blue is back.
Yep. So we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. We're going to go through some hot deals here. We're going to talk about some commercial real estate with both Kyle and John, and we're going to take your questions live on air here. So you can call in with your questions. The best question of the morning is going to win a $50 gift card to Amazon. So the best question again of the morning is going to win that $50 Amazon gift card. The call-in number, Evan, is
651-647-2910. That's 651-647-2910. And the text line, because I know you're going to ask me for that one next, is 763-443-5664. Text in your questions. Best question of the morning, $50 Amazon gift card. Got to be real estate related, though. 763-443-5664 to text in your questions.
And if you're in the studio right now, you're not eligible to win the gift card.
That is correct.
I saw those two writing down the number over there. They're like, ooh, $50 gift card. Texting my question here during the air.
I had a couple good questions in my back pocket.
Nice. Love it. All right. So gift card goes to the best question of the morning. You can call in or text in. We're also on Facebook Live. So you can watch us on Facebook Live. Just search for Minnesota Home Talk there, and you can watch us live. And we're also streaming live on YouTube as well. So Minnesota Home Talk has a YouTube page, so you can watch us live on YouTube. And then this show will also be on any podcast service out there. And so if you want to watch the show later in the week, you can actually catch us on any podcast service that's out there as well. Again, phone lines are open, 651-647-2910. 651-647-2910.
You got it.
And that text line again, Evan, is
763-443-5664. That's 763-443-5664 to text in your questions.
perfect. All right, Evan, you got that fire extinguisher?
No, I left it at home. I was too busy painting minis last night to bring in the fire extinguisher.
Because you know what time it is, right?
Yep, it's time for some hot deals.
That's right.
Wow, that is the
Steve's
intro.
like, that was cheesy.
Yeah, that was a bug. I wasn't quite sure where that was going. All right. Hot deals. Started off here. We got 3 condos in the Ridgeview complex off Burnsville Parkway in Burnsville, of course. We got a couple of 1-bedrooms that are listed for $70,000 each and a 2-bedroom for $80,000. Both of them great investor opportunities. Need a little bit of cleanup, but I've just sold a property in that complex in the last 2 weeks, and there's definitely some meat on the bone there with those properties.
I mean, where else can you pick up a property? And they're 1-bedrooms, though?
2 of them are 1-bedrooms. Those are the 70,000,
Yeah.
and then the 1 2-bedroom is 80.
I mean, where else can you pick up a 2-bedroom condo for 80,000?
Right.
I mean,
And you can rent them all day long.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Next up on the list, we have a property out in Afton, 2.9 acre property, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, about 2,900 square feet. Gorgeous property with a gorgeous view. Listed at $750,000.
I think that one comes with some. Was that one with the 2.9 acres?
Yeah.
That one comes with some acres too. Nice.
Yeah, nice,
It's on
right?
2.9 acres, and it's got a really neat sunroom that I'm looking at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Cool property.
It looks like a two-level sunroom.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 2-level sunroom with a spiral staircase.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Next up on the list, this is actually one of mine. This one is going active 1 week from today. 155 Fox Hunt Way. Gorgeous 3-bedroom, 4-bath townhome over in Victoria. Just about 2,200 square feet. It's in a great complex. It's got a walkout basement, and it also looks right across the way at the community park. So if you got little kids, you can actually sit right in the kitchen window or right on your deck, and you can see the kids playing from there. It's a really nice little townhome. It's going to go fast. Next up on the list, we got the most unique property in the state of Minnesota. Legitimately the only pagoda house that you're going to run into in Minnesota. The original owner brought the design back from him from Japan. You can see it up there behind you on the wall. On a great lot on Lake Pepin. I mean, it's got 450 some feet of the lakeshore, and it is just a really cool spot on Lake Pepin there. It's not far off the channel.
Unbelievable lot.
Yeah, where it's not far off the main channel where the boats go right by the property. Yeah, it's really neat. I've shown that property once or twice. It's pretty cool experience.
It's got like 500 feet of lakeshore to
Yeah,
itself.
that's what I was thinking.
It's like 480, I think is the official number.
And like all sand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like the rocky, muddy lakeshore. It's literally like all sand. You look at the pictures, the whole loop there. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Definitely worth going to the website, minnesotahometalk.com, and checking it out. Even if you're not in the market for a $1.5 million property,
pagoda house.
It's really cool.
It is really cool, and it's got a huge detached garage. It also has a guest cottage that is currently unfinished, so you've got opportunity to build in some extra space or guest house or whatever you want to do. It's a really neat property. Up after that, down on Cedar Lake in the New Prague area, we've got a little 1-bedroom, 1-bath opportunity right on the water. It's got steel composed docks and steps and stuff. So I mean, it's very well built. It's very well ready for the long term. Nice clean little house. There is room on the street side to expand out if you wanted to add on a bedroom or add on some space. But it's super nice inside. It's very cute. Got a great view. Comes with the docks. It's a good opportunity.
That's really nice inside. And that's right on Cedar Lake.
It's right on Cedar Lake, over on the western shore, and it is listed at $449,900.
They got muskies in that lake, don't they? Cedar? think
I don't know
Lake's a
about
musky
muskies,
lake.
but
Ever the fisherman, Mike.
but I know they crushed it on that lake this year with crappies,
right? Yeah,
and perch.
yeah, nice.
Yeah, the people were going all over to ice fish there because the crappies were fantastic this year. Next property up, 26 10th Street West, unit number 2008 in St. Paul. That is a 2-bed, 1-bath, about 1,100 square feet. Beautifully updated, spacious top floor condo in the heart of downtown St. Paul. Show-stopping panoramic view of the downtown skylines, including the Capitol, the Cathedral, and downtown Minneapolis. It's got a fully updated kitchen with stainless appliances, tile backsplash, stone countertops, custom bar area, and brand new luxury vinyl plank flooring throughout as well. So gorgeous little penthouse townhome condo. Sorry, $175,000. What do we got next here in the Galleria area of Edina? 3209 Galleria, number 807. 1 bed, 2 bath, 865 square foot unit. Modern unit in the highly desirable West Inn Edina Galleria residence. Spacious floor plan, tile and hardwood floors, fireplace feature wall, and views for miles from floor to ceiling. Gorgeous property for $650,000. Up next, down in Savage, looks like we got a couple of new builds coming up. One of them is on Sumter Ave, 4 bed, 3 bath, 2,400 square feet. It's a Pebble Creek custom home featuring gorgeous kitchen, granite countertops, chef's appliances, large pantry, and beautiful wood flooring. Convenient office on the main floor, large windows, 2 fireplaces, a wet bar in the basement.
This is my favorite Pebble Creek.
Is it?
Yeah, plan.
Yeah.
This is the first one that they built. They built the stairs that goes down the lower level behind the fireplace. So you have the main living room there, and you have the fireplace and stuff, and then behind that is actually the stairs that gets you to downstairs.
Oh,
it's pretty unique, and the house is immaculate. If you look at the pictures there, I mean, it's amazing.
It's a real slick layout. It only has one problem, and we've talked about this before, and it's a really big problem. I don't own it, and I don't live there.
Right.
That's a huge issue.
That's a big problem.
that is a big
We
problem.
got to get on that,
Yeah.
Evan.
Yeah.
That one is listed at $995,000. And up last, we've got another Pebble Creek home on Sims Court Southeast in Prior Lake. This one's 5 bed, 5 bath, almost 3,000 square feet. Once again, it's going to have all the gorgeous Pebble Creek finishes and styling. Another great property. This one is listed at $950,000. And that's it for our
It's so hot.
properties.
It's the temperature went up in here. You got that air conditioner on, Evan?
I mean, I do, but with all these hot listings and also 5 people in here, it's difficult to keep cool.
They'll create a breeze as they go fast.
Right? I love it.
Well, anyway, if you want to
Yeah.
check out any of those hot listings or any of the other listings from the Minnesota real estate team and the Jason Walgrave real estate team, go to minnesotahometalk.com. You can click on any of the great links on the site. And if I was smart, I would go to the site right now and you could watch it happen. Oh, I'm typing it in. Minnesota Home Talk. You Google it, you click the link. Oh my God, look at all the partners and all the great stuff on minnesotahometalk.com.
There we are.
Yep. There you are, and there Jason is. I'm not there. The rest
Definitely.
of us aren't there.
Definitely faces made for radio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. The least handsome people in the room are always Jason Walgrave and Mike Overson. They're just hideous. But yeah, there's any number of great partners. And if you're looking to get a evaluation on what your property's worth, click that "What's Your Home Worth" button. You'll get in touch, right, Steve?
Absolutely.
You'll walk them through exactly the fine details, not that Zestimate.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get our guests involved here. So we had John McCarthy and we have Kyle De La Roseby from Colliers in with us. Again, good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning.
Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about what you guys do and who Colliers is?
Absolutely. So John and I were commercial real estate brokers. We work for Colliers International Commercial Real Estate Group, full service real estate company, meaning that we represent landlords, we represent tenants, either buying or leasing space. We have property management, we have project management, we have architecture, really full service. Is there anything I'm missing, John?
There's a few things you're missing. We do have a valuation group. We do have Colliers Mortgage, which helps our clients finance their commercial properties.
Yep.
There's Colliers Insurance. And then, of course, there's our group, Capital Markets, right?
Yes, sir. And what does capital markets mean, John?
Well, depends what industry you're in, right? Every industry seems to have a capital markets group, but capital markets in the commercial real estate industry really deals with anything associated with buying or selling real estate, related to the financing, related to the sale, related to the marketing. Everything that goes into a transaction on a commercial property kind of falls under capital markets. It's kind of a fancy name.
Well put. Well put.
Is there price point, a minimum price point where all of a sudden it becomes a capital investment property? Nothing under $1 million, or is there any of that type of criteria that makes it a capital investment property?
That's a really good question. I'd say that the lower end of the deal size that we do is $2 million. We'll go up to $200 million. So in the last 18 months, our team has transacted on $1.2 billion. That includes office, industrial properties, a couple portfolios of industrial and office properties, which means there was one owner that owned a collection of properties. Maybe it was 10 or 12 different industrial buildings that were sold to an investor.
Right.
So John and I will sell this based on a potential return profile that an investor is looking for. So that's the biggest difference between commercial and residential. What we're here to talk about is commercials looked at from a income producing perspective.
Right. Yeah. It's really not related to price. In fact, Kyle last year sold a retail strip center for $425,000. And like Kyle mentioned, we had a couple transactions last summer that were in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So, and we treat them all the same, right, Kyle?
Absolutely.
But it's, it's really more commercial real estate is dealing with businesses. I think on the residential side, maybe there's a little more emotion when you get into buying and selling, because you're dealing with your house where you're living. It's more economical when you're looking at a commercial property. It's more about the numbers. It's more about the math. And there's still emotion involved. And we still act like counselors a lot of the day, just like you folks do. But it's about the numbers.
Absolutely. Well, and within commercial real estate, there's 5 different, what we like to call food types. And that would be office, industrial, retail, multifamily, and hospitality. Hospitality being hotels. So throughout the pandemic, we've seen a real shift of some trends. We've seen an acceleration of others. Primarily, office has struggled. Industrial has overperformed. Retail's made a bounce back, which is actually a big surprise because I'm sure everybody is aware of a large retailer closing their store. We're from Prior Lake, so Burnsville Mall had a couple of big box vacancies. Those spaces are starting to become viable again. And one thing that John and I was discussing yesterday was these big retailers are realizing that their online sales are going to start to suffer if they don't have the bricks and mortar and they're not staying at the front of the mind of consumers.
So it's just like having the store as a big billboard for their online sales.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But
That's an expensive billboard.
Right. That's interesting. So that you brought up a good point there. So I mean, COVID changed a lot of stuff on the residential side, right? So that's the type of financing I do. That's the type of properties that Steve does here. What did COVID do on the commercial side of things? Office space is obviously probably the biggest impacted, I would imagine, as far as COVID goes. And did you see anything else, like any other trends that came out of that?
That's such a large question. It has affected every aspect of everything we do in commercial real estate. I look back to March of 2020, where on a family vacation, we're down in Mexico, and it was happening that week when everything was coming out, and we're all sitting there watching our phones and, oh, what is going to happen? And I remember telling my family, you know what? I may never sell another building in my life. I mean, I thought the world was coming to an end. I mean, we were all waiting for something to tip the market over because it's been so good for the last 7-10 years that this has to be it. This has to be it. And so, what am I going to do? I can paint houses. I can, pick up rocks and stuff, but just the complete opposite happened. And, the industrial market doubled and tripled because of COVID.
So why is that?
Well, e-commerce,
and you think of all the,
supply chain shortages. So going back to my business management class at St. Cloud State, had to give John and
Harvard of the North,
Harvard of the North, as John likes to call them, our old alma mater. There's 2 different types of deliveries kind of philosophies for inventory management. There's just in time and just in case. And before the pandemic, we largely relied on just in time. So we're importing our goods from other countries, and we're just having enough real estate, talking warehouses here, to fit that just in time inventory that's going to be
the flow out.
Flow in, flow out. So now we're transitioning to a just in case.
That's keeping some on hand.
Exactly. So, different manufacturers are either moving their plants back here or just stockpiling different types of materials.
Finished products or both?
Both.
Yeah.
So raw materials and finished products.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. And, the e-commerce, I think, is, certainly going to continue. And I think it's also our buying habits have all changed. We really expect stuff to be there in an hour or by the next day. And you think of the ripple effect on warehouses. A lot of these resellers who work for Amazon, they all have a little piece of a warehouse somewhere. They don't have it. They don't have a store anymore. A lot of people who were had small businesses, went to strictly e-commerce during the pandemic. Well, their product is somewhere, and it's in a warehouse somewhere, and it's all those companies are taking their little piece and growing. And if you look to the future, with what we just came out of with the pandemic, you think of all the additional testing, you think of the PPE that we got caught without when this happened, and that hopefully is going to change. And all that stuff relates to warehousing and storage and needing that kind of stuff, like Kyle said, on a moment's notice. So you got to have it ready. You can't wait for it.
Yeah, and we don't need to jump into it too far, but I think political influences have an effect as well.
Yeah. Going back to what other things happened in, throughout some of these food classes, as Kyle calls them, retail, we thought that was really going to collapse too, because at first nobody was going to stores and nobody wanted to look at anybody and nobody wanted to talk to anybody and just order online. But you know what? If you look at pre-COVID, a lot of the flushing out of retail companies had already occurred. It was kind of a clean, call it a clean landscape of retailers. And if you look back now, not a lot of companies went out of business. That's another big surprise in the retail. The ones that are there are strong and going to get stronger. And there's this pandemic changes everybody's way of thinking. I just heard today, I was driving here, and they talked about the government is going to sponsor 500,000 electrical charging stations to be within 50 miles of each other throughout the country on major thoroughfares. Think of the ripple effect on that with retail. They're not just going to be little electricals. They're going to be a station. They're going to be a coffee shop. They're going to be a place you can get a salad. They're going to, it's going to stimulate some sort of commercial real estate growth more than likely.
So going back to the one specific property that you kind of mentioned, the Burnsville Center. So to the Burnsville Center, is it struggling, or has it struggled because of the death of in-store retail, or was it the particular brands, or is it the mall concept? I mean, that's shocking that huge property is, half full at this point and struggling.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. But I think the proximity to the Mall of America did not help Burnsville from a destination retail standpoint. To be able to hop on 35, drive 10 minutes and be at the Mall of America versus go to Burnsville, and not to say that it's not a great mall. I worked there for a couple of years and probably had it was one of the funnest jobs of my life, but there's just more drawing you to the Mall of America and more amenities around it that, it's going to make for a better excursion.
So difference wise, it's not any further from the Mall of America than Southdale, but Southdale, as little time as I spend there, seems like it kind of recreated itself to maybe a higher end model or something, right? They did something to add some splash and reinvigorate their business there, because that mall there's nothing shut down in that one.
Yeah, and same with Ridgedale. Ridgedale's doing terrific. I think the if you want to call it the death of the mall started happening well before the pandemic. There was always concern about, do people want to work in a mall. So we've seen this conversion of a lot of malls over the last couple of years too, where, people are taking vacant malls and turning them into housing, turning them into fitness, turning them into storage. And so
medical office,
and that stuff evolves and the stronger ones survive. And Burnsville too, now you watch, that's going to be back because a new group came in and purchased it at a lower basis.
The city's really trying to reconfigure that entire area.
Right. And
Isn't half of it going to be like a conference center or something?
Yeah, and they're going to have different multifamily. There's a bunch of different concepts, and you can go to the city website. So I don't want to speak out of place, but it's going to be a mixed use development that they aim to provide some walkability.
Yeah, for decades, the Dales or the malls never ever thought of selling their outlots. You never saw standalone fast food restaurant in the corner of a Dale. They wanted to control all the parking. Well, now you go look around
And it's all
apartments, it's all service, it's live, work, play. What a great concept, right?
Yeah.
To be able to live in an apartment and walk into a mall and go walking if it's cold out. So,
right.
it's kind of fun to see how all this stuff evolves, how it gets figured out. And boy, we're seeing a lot happening with the office space in the pandemic. I think, people are wondering what's going on with the office market, what's going to happen. We're in that phase right now. This year is going to dictate a lot of what's happening with office buildings. Right now, we're hearing it's 3 days a week. People are going to go back. Our team has been back 100% of the times. Frankly, we didn't really miss a beat.
6 or 7 days a week.
Yeah, we cut back to 6 days a week, and
Right.
right. And
You're not real estate if you're doing 6 days a week.
right,
Come on.
but that's going to be evolved too. You're going to see some of these functional, obsolete buildings be converted into housing. You're going to see them being converted into med tech, to storage, and it's going to evolve. We're all going to be just fine.
Yeah, and you're hearing a lot on the office side the term flight to quality, and what that means is that tenants in Class C to Class B buildings will reduce their footprint, go into a nicer building where they're maybe paying a little incrementally higher rate, but now they're going to have some amenities, a nicer space that is going to help them recruit and draw their employees back to the office.
Employee retention.
Right.
Yep, that's a lot of the larger corporations are really putting a lot of thought and effort into creating spaces that their employees want to be.
Yeah, and I was going to say, so I did 28 years in the corporate world up through engineering and things like that. Of course, that particular company that I worked for is tied to this location because they've got test cells and development and a lot of infrastructure there. So the office space is attached to it. So they're stuck with it. But I think they've gone from cramming office space for 500 in there to reservable office space for 250. So they haven't reduced their footprint at all, but they've made it more comfortable for the people that need to go in.
Well put. And that there's a term for that. It's we space or me spaces to we spaces. And what that means is instead of a dedicated workstation, you're seeing some companies implement a kind of hoteling desk where you don't necessarily leave your things overnight. You just kind of have a cubby, and that works differently for different types of businesses.
Sure. Right. And I always say that, demand for office space hasn't reduced its volume, but there is more pressure on quality and flexibility. Instead of companies having real estate as an expense, they're kind of looking at it now. How can we use it as a tool to get people in the office? How can we use this as a true asset? And that's where people are looking at these nicer buildings with there's an amenity race going on right now with a lot of these office buildings. It started pre-COVID, and now they're kind of readjusting, but they're adding things like medical related, pieces. There was a building that I read about. It was, I don't know if it was in somewhere in Europe that literally you have a card in your wallet or an RFID card as an employee walking in the building. You walk in the building, it takes your blood pressure somewhere. It weighs you somewhere. It reminds you to go to the doctor if they see your weight change. I mean, they're trying to add things that really blend your health, your life, your work. And we're going to continue to see these changes and pivots in our economy for sure.
So you're saying that there's a point in time where I'm finally going to drink enough water.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys see, do you guys see a difference between like when you get to like downtown Minneapolis, downtown St. Paul versus outskirts? Because one of the things that we kind of noticed was pandemic came, you know, it's like you're staying at home more. People are like, well, I can work remotely. I don't have to be closer to downtown where the big office building is. I never go there anymore. So we kind of saw this expanding of people going out to the outer rings. Do you see that on the office side of things too, where maybe less offices are going to be downtown and you might see more offices spreading to the outer rings?
First and second ring.
Yeah, I think these trends happen in cycles, and you know, there was a migration to suburbs. There was a remigration down to downtown. I don't want to go all the way and say there's going to be a full remigration to the suburbs, but the suburbs have performed head and shoulders above downtown throughout the pandemic in terms of new leasing activity, sales volume, really all the metrics that our investors are following. But I think in terms of downtown, we call it CBD, as in Central Business District. People are just kind of waiting for the first few metrics to come out, first few sales to happen. It's tough to sell a house in a neighborhood if nothing's sold in that neighborhood, because you don't know what the comp is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think we're waiting for some of the larger companies to, encourage their workers to come back. I mean, we're right now in week 2 at our office of just pulling out all the stops and trying to get people back to the office. I mean, from puppies at lunch hour to breakfast every morning to,
coffee tasting.
Have any openings?
New coffee. Yeah.
Jason doesn't provide puppies and breakfast.
Right. Colliers, we have puppies.
Yeah, right.
Right. So
maybe you guys can have Steve come down there and he'll give like free autograph signature pictures of himself or something.
Perfect.
That might bring
Absolutely.
some people in.
I've caught him in our lobby doing that before. So
I have actually. His lobby's a great place for me to go hang out when I'm in between appointments. I'll go and I'll be able to say hi to him. And I met Matt Burke and Chris Carr from K102. And
nice.
Because they're in
you
the same
can't do that
office.
working from home.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're in the same Their building is the same building where Ryan O'Neill's show is.
Oh, it is. Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
with a piano player playing in the
Yeah,
background too.
piano
I mean,
player.
it doesn't get any better. And like you said, Kyle, it doesn't happen at home, right? You got to get out and get to the office. But back to downtown, it's changing. The foot traffic's increasing every week. They track that very well.
Twins winning streak helps.
Twins winning streak helps. The Timberwolves losing last night doesn't help. But people are coming back to downtown. It's probably going to be a while, to getting back to pre-pandemic. But, I think you see around the country some of these second-tier cities, the Atlantas, the Miamis, the Austins, where there's migration. Those office markets are doing just fine. I mean, those rates are rising every year. And, we're going to get back. Minnesota is looked at as a really stable place to invest, stable place to work, because we don't have a lot of ups and downs. If you look at where these other cities have gotten all their growth over the last few years, it's been technology companies have been growing. Well, look at what happened in the stock market last week with technology, right? When you're too dependent on one thing, you can get in trouble. And, so that's one worry I think we kind of watch on these fast growing cities with, 5,000 people a month moving into, right? They got some infrastructure challenges.
It's been a while since I took classes on this back in college. Well, quite a while. Back then I remember Minneapolis, St. Paul being very high per capita when it came to company headquarters and things like that. Is that still the case here in Minnesota?
It is still one of the highest per capita with Fortune 500 companies, but we have lost a couple, been some mergers. Minnesota has never been a big in-migration company. But, I think it is stable. We're not tied to any one industry. People do like living here. We're always showing up as a favorable place to live. Companies right after, the George Floyd issue. I mean, Kyle and I are dealing with investors every day that are always a day away from going into their investment committee to ask for approval to buy or sell a building. And there was a few months where Minneapolis was kind of like, let's wait and see what happens. But that's pretty much over. I think people have now seen what's going to happen with the pandemic for the most part. And we're now seeing trades or transactions, even downtown Minneapolis, that are at levels higher than they were pre-pandemic on some buildings. Kyle and I are dealing with investors right now that still want to buy and invest in downtown Minneapolis. They're going to get a little better deal, but not significant, because I think people are looking beyond it. They're looking down the road already.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. What are you guys seeing on like apartment buildings? I hear a lot that vacancy is ultra low. It's
Red
like
hot.
it's right. Is that the truth out there from what you guys are seeing?
Yeah, red hot. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I know 2 weeks ago, the highest price per unit in Minnesota history was ever paid it was in Rochester, an apartment building in Rochester.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. It is certainly the hottest asset class. It is here in Minneapolis. It here is everywhere in the country. But like Kyle said, that was like a $300,000-$500,000 a unit.
Mm-hmm.
The average right now on some of these new buildings that you're seeing go up are right $225,000 to $250,000 a unit. And I remember when I got in the business, Steve, right out of college, I came and I was peddling apartment buildings. I remember when we crossed the 30,000 a unit threshold, everybody thought, oh my God, how everyone's going to go buy a house now because they can't afford 30,000, a unit apartment. And now to think of what's happened since there in the last 25 years, it's unbelievable, but it's going to continue. That's where all the money is being drawn towards. I think you look at what Blackstone, one of the largest landlords in the world, in the country, last week, they just bought $8 billion worth of student housing. And we always like to watch, what's Blackstone doing? Are they buyers? Are they selling? What are they doing? And to see them go in and buy student housing, everyone's kind of scratching their head. But you think about it. I remember during the pandemic, some friends of my sons who go to Harvard, they were back here in Minneapolis in their basement studying, right? And so I think a group like Blackstone looks at that and says, student housing's resilient. Because, and they kept paying their tuition at Harvard, even though they're in their basement here. Right. And so that tells an investor that that's a pretty solid opportunity to invest in. And, we're going to see a lot of changes, but apartments are hot. You wish you owned apartments.
I know Kyle mentioned it before. It's a lot about the business metrics and, less emotion. I deal with investors mostly on a smaller scale, right? Houses or duplexes or whatever. And I've got some now that are saying, they're not going to buy right now. They're waiting for prices to fall. And I'm telling them but it's not really just about the price of the property itself. It's about the income potential, and rents are really climbing. And so we've got investor guy right here, Todd Rooker, coming up after us, so you'll guys enjoy.
We'll take care of them.
Yeah,
but trying to get them to look past price, and look at return on their investment, because rents have skyrocketed too.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Blackstone and rents, I mean, they came into this market a few years ago and started buying industrial. Right now, every industrial landlord in the Twin Cities is benefiting from that, because rental rates are going up 5%, 6%, 7% a year right now. And that doesn't include the increases in taxes, increases in insurance, increases in utilities. And so that's where you're hearing these rents going up 10, 20%. Half of that's increases going to the landlord, but rents are going up. It is getting more expensive. But our most expensive piece of property here in the Twin Cities, Class A, is $35, $40 a gross per square foot. It's 3 times that out in the coast. So people look at this as like, you know what? It's a pretty good place, and there's probably higher potential for increases here.
Do you guys, excuse me, on the new construction side of things, obviously residential was hit hard there. I imagine commercial was too, but just new construction, apartment buildings or any sort of really new construction, commercial type of property. I mean, were the rate of what they could build and were building, did that slow down just as much as residential did because of the pandemic?
I think that it's a multifaceted answer, but the industrial segment saw the most development. Office was just demand. The demand wasn't there to build a ton. We've seen one Class A high-rise office tower go up, the RBC Gateway, which is now fully leased. They've done tremendous, but most of the development was industrial, and the return on cost was there where the tenant was willing to pay a high enough rate that they can pay the higher material cost.
Right.
Gotcha.
And I think you can also relate with the fact the time frame it takes to build a building.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff that was being built during the pandemic was planned for 18 months, 24 months ahead of time. And so that construction didn't change, pricing didn't change. But now it has. The deals that are being evaluated today, they're being affected by interest rates. They're being affected by higher pricing. To this point, that pricing has been can be passed along to the consumer, to the renters so far. So does that change as time goes on? Yes, but again, construction, once we figured out the world wasn't going to end, industrial buildings, we've never seen such speculative building as we have more recently, meaning they're starting buildings without tenants. Find a piece of property, build it, and it's going to be leased and probably sold before it's even finished.
So
do you have a question for John or Kyle? Give us a call. 651-647-2910. We haven't given out the number in 30 minutes, guys. We've been talking about industrial real estate and commercial real estate more broadly for 30 minutes without giving out the number. 651-647-2910. Or you can text in a question. 763-443-5664. Best question of the morning. Real estate related gets a $50 Amazon gift card. Give us a call, 651-647-2910.
So,
very good, Evan.
Question back to what John was just finishing off and Kyle had talked about before, the surge in industrial. Is the surge in industrial bringing in new startup companies, or is it a lot of existing companies that are expanding their footprint to more distance to point and sale, or where's that growth?
Yeah, it's both. It's definitely both. There's groups that are looking to have more than one location. There's groups that maybe they were a startup a few years ago. They took 5,000 square feet. Now they need 30. There's a lot of those groups, and going back to the last 10 minutes and talking about rent growth and how much more expensive it is today than it was 2 years ago. These companies have grown so much that they're able to foot that bill and take more space, which is a good sign.
Yeah. And Steve, you've seen all these bigger buildings being built, the Amazons, the Walmart facilities, the last mile distribution. Those add a lot to the overall numbers too, when you build 1 million square feet or 500,000 square feet. But they also have a positive ripple effect too, because there's a lot of companies that are supporting them or trying to compete with them. And so they want to have this similar type of facility, maybe not quite as big, but it's probably growing of existing tenants and existing companies. New companies are coming up through COVID, through the pandemic, but it's real growth. It's true growth.
Yeah, and John mentioned $1 million square feet, so I kind of it sounds like a staggering number, and want to give you some context about it that I think will help tie it up. So Minneapolis has about 350 million square feet of industrial product, and the stat's a couple months old, but we only had 3 to 4% of our total inventory under construction, which was still relatively low to other Midwest markets. So when we're talking about demand and supply, the supply still was not able to meet the increase in
Demand there. We had a phone call come in. We got a phone question here. So we have Dan on the line with us. Good morning, Dan. How can we help you?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I hear you talking a lot about the metro area with regards to housing and apartments and building and so forth. I'm actually the mayor in a small town in northwest Minnesota, and every big company that has a facility in northwest Minnesota is facing the exact same problem that we are in Roseville, and that is workforce housing. And we can't find a way to close the gap on the funding. So you're talking about the number of dollars per unit. We're presently in a partnership with another company, and we are building some 36 or 37 unit apartment, but we can't get the financing to get it done. We got that funding gap. The appraisal was done on, not on how much it actually costs to build a building. It's based on what you can charge for rent and then what you can borrow against that. And we've got, in a $6 million project, we've got a $2 million gap, and we're struggling trying to figure out ways to solve that. And I hear you talking about Blackstone and so forth, but I'm just looking for some advice and who would be interested in coming to a place like Roseville or Warwick, Thief River Falls. And this is all across the state. When I go to meetings and when I listen to other mayors in rural Minnesota, everybody is struggling with workforce housing. Where do we put workers? And we're paying $20 an hour. They've got benefits. They got 401k. They got profit sharing. And once they get up there, they love it, but they don't like living in a hotel for a month or two waiting for a place to open up, and then they leave. So I'm all ears.
Dan, that's a wonderful question, and we hear that all the time. It's not only in Minnesota, it's throughout the country. In rural areas, having housing that can be supported. I'll use an example. This is very similar to what's going on in Owatonna right now. We have a couple clients with some property down there, and what Owatonna has been doing, because they have a lot of growth. I think at Thief River Falls, Roseau up there's some big industry up there. Same thing with Owatonna, and they have no housing, so they can't hire anybody. People come to interview, want to work at a company, and they can't find a place to live. So what's happening is the companies are getting together and are helping, are talking, trying to determine what do we need, where do we need it. None of these companies, I don't believe, have written a check yet to buy down maybe the interest rate or buy down the cost, but they're at the table with the city folks. I know the mayor of Owatonna is calling some of these developers saying, please start, please go. They're being a little more reasonable on some of their fees that maybe cities charge occasionally. But I think it's going to come down to a public-private partnership with the local mayor, city council, and the local businesses, and trying to put their heads together and work together on this, because it is a big deal. It's important. And the type of housing, what we're seeing, when you say workforce housing, what comes to mind to us, and people should know this, it's a smaller type of apartment. Maybe it doesn't have a washer and dryer in the apartment. Maybe it's shared, but it's somewhere who's making under $20 an hour can actually afford to live there. So in the Twin Cities, what's happening, we're seeing conversion of some older hotels, some older apartment buildings to workforce housing. And so maybe keep an eye open for some Class C buildings that, don't have a secondary use. There are developers now that can figure that out. Here's the one other item that I don't know how we solve it. Outstate, it happens in Duluth, Owatonna, all these areas where, you can fill the building, you can meet your pro forma, but investors always want to know who's going to buy it in 10 years from me up in Roseau, up in Duluth. That's the question. Now we're seeing it. We're seeing institutions go in these markets, but it's just starting. That's the other thing, missing link to having the whole cycle work to have a lot of investment happen in your community.
Sounds like a quick suggestion for Dan as a call to the mayor of Owatonna.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to be clear, we are doing a lot of that stuff. I mean, we're doing tips, we're doing tax abatements. Polaris, we're the home of Polaris. In 1954, it was started. They threw $100,000 into the most recent project. We've got our local hospitals contributed financially. Another manufacturing company up there has contributed financially, and it's frustrating. In a town of 2,700 people, we're pretty limited in what we can actually do financially, because we just don't have the tax base to be able to create a lot of incentives. But the ones that we do have at our disposal, we're trying to maximize, and we're just looking for some other ideas. And I appreciate you listening. And if you have some more suggestions, you can easily get a hold of me. So I'd certainly appreciate it.
Well, keep rattling the cage and keep getting this message out, because developers, you'll find, are very creative, very smart. They will help figure this out. They know who to ask. They know who to talk to. Up in that part of the world, there are tremendous developers that came from up in northern Minnesota that can figure that out as well.
John says that because
Polaris,
he's from Brainerd.
Polaris moved in. They moved in 10 mobile units last summer that they paid for at about a tune of about $1.5 million, I think. And so we're working hard. We've got a lot of jobs available in Northwest Minnesota, and we just have to solve this housing problem. That's for sure. So I'm working with the legislature too. Hopefully we can spring something loose.
Well, thanks for the call.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan. Phone lines are open, 651-647-2910. Still got a little time to grab another call, another question this morning. Best question of the morning is going to win that $50 Amazon gift card. Again, that number 651-647-2910. You can also text in your question to us as well. That text line, Evan, is
763-443-5664. That's 763-443-5664.
All right, perfect. So John and Kyle, for anyone who's listening to the show, what's who should be contacting you to have you guys help them for their needs? Like what's your typical client, or what's your client look like?
We work with everybody. We have private investors. So, people like yourself, myself, who own a couple commercial buildings. And John also mentioned a big name that is also a client of ours. So we work with institutional groups as well. So they run the gamut.
Yeah, there's sectors of investors out there right now. The pure institutional ones you think of, the teachers, the travelers that have a whole building somewhere in New York that buys real estate, right? But then there's also the local investors that understand the local market, still have deep pockets, maybe bring in a partner somewhere. There's those type of developers all around the city here. And then, there's some new ways that we're seeing people invest as well. Even, investors with $5,000 who want to, you see these ads on TV now for the crowdfunding, and, new, it's a little untested, but people are buying, $5,000 are buying a little sliver of an office building somewhere on a crowdfunding site. And those groups are buying buildings in the Twin Cities as well.
We had another phone call come in here, so we're going to go back to the phone lines here. Dave Meyer called in. Good morning, Dave.
Morning, gentlemen. How are you today?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. See, I got one question related to fishing, Mike.
Okay.
Are you gonna catch that same muskie 18 times in Crystal Lake and put on a different T-shirt like you're actually catching it 18 different times?
Well, yeah. So that's
this summer.
There's only one muskie in that lake, and when I catch it, that's exactly what I do. Is I take a picture of it, and then I'll put a different shirt on, different angle, take another picture. And then
it's either that or he's got an awful big aquarium in his basement that he keeps that thing in.
I put a chicken coop, like the chicken wire, and I made a loop out of it, and I just slap it in the lake. So when I catch one, I can just put it in there, and I just go grab it whenever I want and take a picture on it.
There you go. Yeah. Hey, I got a commercial lot question for you. I've got a commercial lot listed up in Columbus, Forest Lake area, 20 acres, and I have gotten probably 30, 35 phone calls from guys looking for outside storage. So for the Colliers guys, are you seeing a lot in terms of the commercial lots? And that seems to be the hottest item close to the metro. And that's what all these guys are telling me is I can't find anything close to the metro where I can actually do some outside storage with boats or trailers or whatever.
Only got a couple minutes for this one.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the hotter attributes of an industrial building right now. If you can have outdoor storage in addition to your office and warehouse, that building's worth more. It's golden. Cities don't necessarily like outdoor storage. That's why it's getting limited. That's why it's, fewer and far between. But if you can maintain it and you have it, It's golden, and we're seeing people pay for outdoor storage from $1 to $2 a square foot.
Depending on the condition, if it's paved, you can get closer to 2. If it's not paved,
Class 5 or something, it's
yep.
closer to 1, or if it's fenced. But definitely, if your city allows you to do that, you're in good shape.
Yep. That's been the challenge. Is the city of Columbus doesn't want outside storage in that corridor, and that's why we've had an issue trying to get the these folks that are looking for that. It's just not happening. So,
how many calls have you got?
Thank you, gentlemen.
How many calls have you got from people who just want to do the traditional storage that we're seeing pop up everywhere?
There hasn't been a whole lot of that. I mean, the corridor is designed for something like a large warehouse space or a small manufacturing or something like that, commercial type stuff. But it's really not. They're not looking for that kind of business in that corridor. It's a fairly tight section of maybe a mile long, where they're trying to kind of direct what type of business goes in there. So, which makes sense. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate the call, David.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
All right, you
Thank
too. Gentlemen, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
I think you have John's business card. No, you can,
the
one business card.
Yeah, there's not enough to pass around. Well, you can find us if you look up John McCarthy Colliers or Kyle De La Roseby Colliers. You can also find us on our website. I don't know if we can give you our information, put it on the webpage. Otherwise, I can give out my cell phone number.
What's the website?
Colliers.com.
Okay.
And they better spell that COLLIERS.com.
So go to colliers.com, search for John McCarthy or Kyle De La Roseby, and they'll find you.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate everyone listening this morning. We'll be back next week, every Saturday, 7 to 8 a.m., talking about mortgages, real estate, credit repair. Stay tuned for Todd Rooker's show next, Cover Your Assets. It is an amazing show. He's a very smart guy, and I encourage you to call him and make him sweat a little bit. Call him with a tough question for him. We will be back next week, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
This has been a paid program.